Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for clicking the video. It means a lot that you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making it. Today, I'm talking about why Claire lost this game. I can't say it's fully her fault, but it's also not, without blame. I think really the main issue here isn't really as much her as it is Danny. I think Claire, as much as people are, roasting her for sitting out the challenges, I really don't think that's her main issue. I think it's something much more complicated. If you haven't already, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff because it's free, it's easy, and it really helps the channel out. Okay, so I think we should probably talk about Claire's edit so far. And the reason why I knew she was going home soon, I just didn't think it was this soon. So Claire has gotten what I would call a pretty villainous edit. Now you may be thinking, what? Like, she's not Russell Hands, like, come on. And I get it, but I think it's important to point out that nowadays there's very few even villainous people on the season, let alone true villains that are casted. They usually have to give a good person a villain edit because all they do nowadays is cast squeaky clean people who aren't going to say anything like controversial, and so of course that leaves you with very agreeable people who won't be very good for reality TV. Obviously we're starting to trend in a different direction, but of course we're still in this quote-unquote new era. Even though she only made a few weird faces at Matt and Franny, that was made out to be some sort of villain edit. And what I'm referring to is when they were building up Matt and Franny's relationship to the audience, making us want to root for them. Of course, they then show Claire be like, what are you doing? Like, blah, blah. And making Claire look a lot worse than I think it really was. She was saying, Franny, what are you doing? You're like ruining your game having a showmance, which is valid. But of course, it doesn't come off very well. And so I think overall, I expected Claire to go, just not this early. I figured like a merge boot because she was the biggest edited quote-unquote villain on the season. So who else is the merge boot? Maybe it's someone with a really positive edit, who knows. But so I was like, she has to go either very late pre-merge or merge. And then I saw Josh's edit. I was like, he's got no content. Maybe he just pops up in a pre-merge episode and then goes immediately. That is very common, more in the post-merge where someone gets a huge episode and then gets booted, but it also happens in the pre-merge. Of course, you're part of the cast, you're part of the story, you're important, but overall, like a pre-merge boot, especially like in the third episode, does not really matter in the grand scheme of things. So I'm curious, if maybe they're waiting to give his story. I know that he has some sort of cancer experience, and so I think until we get that like confessional or that story or that episode where he talks about his experience in decent depth, I think that we're not going to see Josh go at all. No way. But of course, on this tribe, as of late, we've had a decent amount going on. First of all, and really most importantly, Matt and Franny have kind of shacked up as a couple. They've been pretty public, especially for this new era. Not overly public, not like Big Brother public with it. I would say like they're definitely hurting their game, even if it saved them for this round. I think they're going to face the music sooner or later. There's no way that they're going to rob and Amber all the way to the end. And so obviously this leads us to believe that they're going to go very soon, or at least one of them will get picked off pre-merge, because I have a good feeling that this Green Tribe is going to go back. But really, before any big strategy went on, it was the 4 versus those two being Matt and Franny. It seems like Claire at first was a big enemy of them, and then of course all of a sudden she's kind of wanted to work with them and get rid of Danny, who's a giant threat on the tribe. Now I can't really blame Claire because Danny is a huge threat. He has Josh and Heidi in his back pocket. The issue is Claire just needed to go with a regular plan, like for example get out Matt, instead of pushing for a bigger blindside, like for an example getting Danny out, because although Danny is a huge threat, you can get him out later. Speaking of Danny playing the game well, in this past episode, of course, Danny hides his fake idol. This is something that we kind of saw coming, but Danny now does it in this episode, and it actually works perfectly, where he's kind of searching, he's around Matt when Matt finds it, but he doesn't quote-unquote see it, although of course he goes and checks, finds out, and then presses Matt in public. I like this because he has his allies. He doesn't need Matt and Franny, and it's just better to put a bigger target on that couple. Honestly, if he would have just blindsided Matt here, it would have been perfect. But I do think keeping Franny and Matt here is smart, because of course you can keep them as easy targets, and now Heidi and Josh will never vote with them to get you out because they're a couple. Why would you team up with a couple. It makes zero sense. And so I do think that does work very well, especially with how he pressed Matt, made Matt lie in front of everybody, and then go individually tell the truth. So the info got out and Matt looked kind of like a liar. Of course, Franny's not happy about this because him, being Danny, and Josh know about Matt's idol. And honestly, if I were Matt, I would probably wait to play it. But then again, maybe it's better to play it now at this next tribal and save him or Franny. But if he's wrong, he's completely screwed here. Moving on to the challenge stuff, which is part of the reason why she got voted out. It's not really, it's more of a scapegoat reason, but it is important here. She obviously sits out 3 immunity challenges in a row, which means that she played in the reward challenges, some that we probably just didn't see. And so it's not like she just never played in a challenge. We just didn't see the challenges that she played in. I believe we saw maybe 1, and that's it. But I do think overall that this is not that much of a problem, and I don't think it's a valid reason to vote someone off. Then again, there really isn't a quote-unquote valid reason for voting someone off at all. I mean, everyone's out there playing for $1 million. They all want it. So you really don't need a reason as much as power, right? Like the power is the more important thing. So I see people on Twitter complaining, saying it's not fair, like the whole challenge idea of her sitting out and her being weak, like she never got a chance. I agree, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. You don't need a valid reason to vote somebody off. It's not about feelings. It just is never about feelings. It's about strategy. You can manipulate feelings for strategy, but you cannot win the game with just feelings. But it doesn't matter if it was fair. She sat out, they didn't like that, they voted her out. So immediately coming out of the challenge, Claire is the big target. And of course, Franny tells her this, and she doesn't really panic, to her credit. She goes to Heidi really and says, Heidi, your game is in my hands. The issue is she just doesn't know how good of a relationship Heidi and Danny have. Danny has a lockhold over this tribe, and it really causes Heidi to not want to flip because she's much closer to Danny. And of course, Claire and Danny are kind of having a battle right now. I think really Claire didn't do much wrong here. If anything, it's really just Danny playing very well and having Josh and Heidi in his back pocket here. It's more a testament to how good Danny is playing than really how bad Claire played. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, none of this happens without you guys. Without you guys, I'm sure we're guys speaking to Word Microphone. Check out the Power Ranking podcast over the weekend, probably posted on Sunday. And that's, I'll talk to you guys in the next one.